In this video, we are going to take a look at some of the data validation options available to you when you are creating a table in Google Sheets. So data validation is just a way for you to kind of check that what somebody has entered into your spreadsheet is actually the type of data that you want. You know, are you expecting numerical data, text data, an email address, a date, things like that. And you can even use data validation to actually limit the type of responses to, maybe 3 or 4 options in a drop-down menu. You can use it to add a checkbox for something that might just be either yes or no. So we're going to look at a few different options here. So I've got a table already set up that I just want to add some validation to. So let's go ahead and take a look. So when you're adding data validation, the first thing that you're going to want to do is select, okay, which cells do I want this to apply to? I think that's easiest. And then in the data menu at the top, we're going to go down to data validation. And you'll see a little pop-up window here. So because I already selected some cells ahead of time, you'll see that this has already been pre-filled A2 through 15. If you forgot to select cells or you needed to change what cells were selected, you would be able to do that here. But I'm going to go ahead and leave those as they are. And then you have a few different options. So you can define some criteria, basically some rules for, okay, what should be in these cells. Is there a list of specific options that I want to give users in these cells? Do I want numbers? So do I want some specific numbers between something to something? Do I want text that either contains or does not contain or is equal to some specific value? Do I want dates or custom formulas or checkboxes? I would say for this particular column for name, I actually don't want to define any criteria because there's lots of different options for names. But I think this is something that would apply pretty well to gender. So let's go ahead and select the cells in the gender column. So when I'm thinking about, okay, what options do I want to be available for gender? I might do something like female, male, and other. Right? And so when you're entering the different options, you do want to make sure that those are separated by commas. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have this box checked, show dropdown. And what that will do, so let's go ahead and save to see what that will do. So now, if I'm filling out this table, the first thing that I see is, okay, I should be choosing one of these 3 options. It kind of gives the user an idea of, okay, what is expected in these cells. All right, so we'll go ahead and put some names in here too. Sarah, Mike, and Jordan. Okay. Now let's think about, okay, what might be some data validation that we could do with the age column? Well, there's a couple of different things that come to mind for me with this particular column. It might want to be that I let users enter a number. We'll say from 0 to 150. We can go ahead and save. So if I enter an age here, like if I enter 18, we're not going to get any problems. If I enter a word like hi, you're going to see that, hey, there's this little reddish orange triangle in the corner, and it's essentially warning you that, hey, this data that you entered in this cell does not match the criteria that was defined. So what we're expecting is a number between 1 and 150. High is not valid data. And even if I enter a number like 200, right, this is bigger, it's still a number, but it's bigger than what we wanted. It's not really an age. So you'll get these warnings like that. The other option that we could have chosen, so I can actually get to data validation by right-clicking on cells that I've highlighted as well. So we get that little triangle because I've chosen show warning. If you change this to reject input, so if I try to type in something now, so when reject input has been selected, it won't even let you add that value to the cell. So it's saying, hey, what you just added doesn't fit the rule of this needs to be a number between 1 and 50, and so it actually doesn't even let me add that value. So depending on the situation, you might want to choose displaying a warning, or you might want to choose rejecting the data altogether. The other thing that I can do, and that I'm actually going to do for my table, if we go to data validation, first I'm going to go ahead and remove everything real quick and clear those cells. I just hit backspace to clear them. So now I've removed the validation, so there are no rules set up right now. I'm going to say, okay, let's create a list of options similar to like what we did for gender, but instead of typing out those items, I'm going to actually choose them from a range of cells that already is in my spreadsheet. So you can see over here in column H, I actually have some age ranges defined. So in my particular table for age, I just want people to select a range. They don't have to select a specific age. So to go and highlight those, I clicked on the little grid to actually go back to my spreadsheet and select those. I'm going to go ahead and keep all the other settings the same. And so now when I click on a cell in the age column, I now have that drop-down menu available to me. So users can select their age that way. All right. Let's look at a couple of other options. So student status. So I was kind of thinking that in a school, in a university, and something like that, you might have some students that are active students, and you might have some students that are not active. Maybe they're taking a semester off, maybe they've graduated, maybe they've moved. So this is the type of category where it might be helpful just to have a true or false checkbox. So I'm going to go ahead and say, all right, for my checkbox, let's say that if it's checked, this means we have an active student. And if it's not checked, we have a student that is inactive in our program. So when you select checkbox as your criteria, what you'll actually see in each cell now is a little box that we can click on to be checked. And if we select a cell with an unchecked checkbox, you'll see that, okay, hey, the value of that cell is inactive. That matches what I typed in. Okay. And then a couple of other data validation criteria that are helpful. So enrolled on, a lot of schools will keep track of, okay, when did this student actually join our program? So it's often helpful to be able to require people to specify a certain date. So maybe you're just checking for any date. Maybe you want to specify dates before or after a specific time. I'm just going to say valid date for now. Go ahead and save that. So we'll see that if I type in something like January 1st, 2017, no errors there, that's a valid date. But if I type in something like yesterday, we're going to get that little warning that, hey, the input here must be a valid date. And we can do something really similar with email. So go to data validation. You'll notice that one of the other criteria for text, we can check, hey, is something a valid URL? Is something a valid email? So I'm going to go ahead and do that, which is a good way of catching, like if somebody types, I could say like name@gmail.com. That looks good. It's got the @sign, it's got something.com. But let's say that maybe you're entering data in for a student and you forget the @ sign, so like name.yahoo.com. It's going to detect, hey, there's something that we expect to see in email addresses that is not there, that @ sign is missing. Please take a look at this cell and fix your data. So that is a brief introduction to some of the data validation available. We definitely did not go over every single option, every single criteria. So that is something that you can play around with. I will provide a link in the description to a completed version of this table if you'd like something to start with or an example to take a look at. Just make a copy and you are free to edit in your own drive. Take care, everyone.